Hello and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the sibling podcast to the popular weekly title. I'm this week's host, Jesse Billington, and I'm joined just by one guest host this week. It is Deputy Editor Chris Hope. How are you, Chris?
I'm not bad. How are you, Jesse? You alright?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've had finally a weekend off from actually going to anything major and sort of starting my days at 5 a.m, which has been quite nice, and then still found myself at some sort of classic car related event on the Saturday regardless. So, yeah, best laid plans and all that. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a really nice weekend off doing anything. And then I was like, oh, Mustang Owners Club's up at Santa Pod. Well, that's close by. I ought to go along, really. So, and considering I've never actually been to an event at Santa Pod, it was quite nice to actually head along and do something a bit different for once. So, yeah, that was quite a fun day out. I enjoyed that.
I've only been to Santa Pod a couple of times, but my enduring memory is that regardless of what the weather is doing, you will get cooked to a crisp. It is so open and exposed. If you don't go without sun cream, you're signing your own death warrant.
Yeah, thankfully Saturday wasn't too hot for the main part of the day. It was sort of like a really temperate 24 degrees, but also quite blustery as well. So it kept the temperature sort of really nice and gentle. So I sort of left the house wearing jeans and sort of a long sleeve shirt that I was like, I can roll the sleeves up if needs be. I'd rather be a bit warm than a bit cold. And I was sort of quite glad when I got there. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember it. I've walked past here and hiked around here before, and I was like, it's definitively blustery. So I was glad I was prepared there. But yeah, no, Mustang run quite well. Hopefully there'll be an Hour Classics on that soon. It's been almost a year since it last appeared in an Hour Classics,
Yes.
so I finally sort of rounded out doing something with it.
This is the family Mustang, isn't it? So.
Yes, yeah, Dad's car. He's away on holiday at the moment, but has very kindly entrusted it to my care for a week or two. I was like, off you go. You can enjoy it for the weekend. Go to the club.
I was wondering whether you were just going to sort of get in trouble for a second there. So
no. This was he'd got the sort of the poster flyer for the event with Mustang Owners Mag and was like, I'm away for it, but do you want to go? And I was like, okay, this seems like a sort of open invitation. So yeah, very nice.
Did it go on the strip?
It did not go on the strip. While it is £45 to do a run what you brung, you do have to have a helmet with you these days. And I didn't think to pick up my helmet before I left the house. Plus, bog standard 289 and a 3-speed auto. It's not exactly going to be setting the timing alight, really.
You're there to make everyone else look good.
Yeah, and also I don't think Dad would have been too pleased if he came home and found that I turned the rear tyres into dust as using all of its many pound-feet of torque in the burnout box just to warm up the single one tyre that sort of locks in with the differential. So, but yeah, I figured it was best just sort of enjoy the nice run out and enjoy the show, enjoy a bit of drag strip action, and then caught up with a friend actually up at Caffeine and Machine on the way home, which was quite nice. It was a Honda night, so there was a lot of Hondas, the early CRXs sort of floating around, early Civics, and then just to slap in the middle of it a giant big red Mustang, and it got a lot of attention for that matter. But it was it was nice to bring something different.
Have we talked about the Festival Speed on a podcast? Have I missed that?
We haven't yet, no, because this is the podcast episode that goes out. We're recording it on a Monday. We'll lift the curtain here. Recording it on Monday the 20th. We should have really recorded it a bit closer to Wednesday the 15th, which is the issue that it sort of regards, which does have the Festival of Speed coverage in it. So if we're talking cars going in one direction at great speed, might as well talk about Festival of Speed quickly, which was my last working weekend of 4 days flat out, herring up and down the Goodwood Hill. But it was good fun covering it. Dusty and hot as always.
Any sort of standout cars?
I mean, the one that really caught my eye, I spent a good time chatting with the fella that had just finished doing the rebuild on it, was I think it's a check the year on it, it's written down in the coverage. It is a 1906 Christie. So these were sort of special racers built to essentially tackle the early years of speedway racing in America. So sort of the thing that would later become IndyCar or kart, depending on sort of what year you joined it. And these are a giant, I think they're somewhere in the region of about 15-litre V4 that's front-wheel drive, and it's direct drive as well. So it's a really, really funky bit of engineering. So you've got this sort of V4 engine that's canted all the way back. Yeah. And then essentially the crankshaft has a series of clutch packs that engage it through a low ratio and then a direct drive to the front wheels. And then if you wanted to change your final drive ratio, you just fitted different size wheels to it. And no one had ever thought to preserve any of these cars. So they were sort of by and large lost to the mists of time and sort of crashed, written off, broken, lost. And sort of the various museums and historians around the sort of sport were like, well, could we recreate one? And so they sort of found a bunch of automotive engineers and historians who were able to sort of piece together the dimensions and the engineering of it based off of literally sort of rough blueprint sketches and photographs of the car in period, and work backwards from there to figure out exactly how it should look, how it should run, what tires it should be on, and so on. And even to the point that they were sort of using lost wax sort of brass casting and all sorts to make sort of bits and pieces with very heritage skills, and sort of bring the car back to life. And yeah, I had like a good hour-long chat on, I think, the Saturday or Sunday afternoon with the fellow who'd done it, just because I was like, it's brilliant heritage engineering that's reviving long lost cars, which is, and it's
this maybe stuff. A car that we'll see later in the year at the Veteran Car Run? I'm guessing 1906. We're talking like something you sit on rather than in. It'll be exposed bodywork, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It looks very much like an early Formula One car. If you think sort of 1920s Formula One car, sort of big, long, sort of proud bonnet, sort of room for two, sort of shoved together with a big wheel in the middle at the back. It's quite sort of forward in its design. But what's the cutoff for Veteran Car Run? Is it 1904, 1905 off the top of my head?
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, so it's 2 years too young for Veteran Car Run, but he's hoping to start running it for the sort of Edwardian races, so it might come back for the members meeting to do the SF Edge Trophy at Goodwood.
Right. Yeah.
Because that sort of fits very much within its remit of Edwardians and specials that raced from that time period. Then hopefully it will do a couple of bits and pieces in America when it goes back over there. But it was all sort of built and assembled over in America. And they hadn't actually had a chance to run it or test it. So they literally sort of put it all together, went, right, the engine fires up. Cool, that needs to go to England now to go and do the Festival of Speeds. They hadn't actually done any testing on it in motion until it reached Out Green and Pleasant Land, and then its sort of first movement in sort of any level of anger was doing the hill climb. And it was sort of really interesting to see the sort of revival of it, bringing it back to life. And I love my motorsports. I love sort of my weird early sort of cars, and where no one had properly defined what a car should be, how it should work, how it should be engineered. So this sort of great idea of it being just sort of, what if we made a giant 15-litre V4 engine that direct drove through the front wheels? Cool, we'll do that.
I'm looking at sort of photos of it now, and the exhaust manifolds at the front of the engine. It looks almost sort of back to front. It's like the steering wheel's in the wrong place.
Yeah, it looks so backward in some of the sort of photos. And the fella did several different iterations of it over the years. So the one that these guys rebuilt was the one that was used in, again, I'll check what I wrote in here. This was used in by Barney Oldfield, and it was set the first 100-mile-an-hour average lap around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And this was before IMS was paved as well, so this was a dirt and dust track around the old brickyard.
Goodbye spine.
And trying to do 100-mile-an-hour average lap. So you do an out lap, build up your speed, one flying lap, and it's a huge challenge. You sort of think about what those cars would have been sort of engineered to put up with. But also it was one of the first cars to ever run sort of sponsorship in motorsport. So the photograph that I've got in the coverage, page 4-5, shows it with I think it says Firestones are my insurance policy. And essentially it was this idea that he was sponsored by Firestone? Firestone Tires, who built and designed the tires for this car as sort of a way of advertising how sort of good a Firestone tire can be. If it can survive a 100-mile-an-hour lap around Indianapolis, it will cope on your Chevrolet or Cadillac in the early 1910s, 1920s. So it was, one of the first cars to ever feature motorsports livery and branding sort of sponsorship on it as well. It was a really just great time to sort of sat there, stood in the sort of paddock chatting with the fellow who'd done a lot of the engineering work and engineering drawings for it, just sort of had redesigned this entire thing. So it was a brilliant thing to sort of find and pick apart. And then on top of it, McLaren sort of unveiled their new MSO M6 GT. So this is a recreation of essentially what was McLaren's first road car. They only ever made about sort of a handful of them in period as a way of trying to homologate their sort of sports car endurance racer. This was sort of way back in the 60s. This was before McLaren even thought about doing the F1 project. So this was McLaren going back to its roots on what should have been Bruce McLaren's first road car with his name on it, and they've sort of revived it. They've rebuilt it out. I think it's sort of largely built to the original specifications as well. So they, again, a handful of those will be made and sold off to very wealthy customers. But it's nice to see a brand that you don't associate with a huge amount of road history going back into its books and honouring it, which is quite nice. I think a lot of the brands, the big motoring brands at the moment, have been doing that. Audi have done it again. Every year they seem to rock up at Goodwood with another blank check project that they've just thrown at Quastermain and Gardner. Previous years they've done it with like the Strommelwagen, the Streamliners. This year they did it with the Lucha, which is sort of like a closed cockpit streamlined racer.
Yes.
Giant V16 engine in the back of it that's supercharged, and the fueling on it was the best thing I sort of found when I was digging into the history and fact of this. So it runs a sort of a three fuel mix of petrol, ethanol, and benzene. And anyone who remembers their O-level organic chemistry will remember that benzene is a particularly volatile and noxious substance, and you really don't want to be around that. So you can smell when it's struck up as well. That it absolutely wails as it's going up the hill. That sort of giant V16 engine just screaming along, and it looks special as well with just sort of the unblemished sort of steel bodywork to it. It's a stunning piece of equipment.
I mean, you're talking about heritage, and I think one of the main reasons is that obviously it's the number of sort of Chinese brand electric cars that we have here. That's not something that they can so easily dip into unless they've partnered with a different manufacturer that can perhaps sort of do that. So it makes complete sense, and obviously Goodwood is the perfect place to showcase these things. It's a global audience now. It's effectively our the equivalent of our British Motor Show now. It's where manufacturers demonstrate their wares here in the UK, sort of thing. So all makes sense, I say.
Yeah, I think Modern Car Talk, BYD, launched, my friend was saying, I think it was 7 models across the course of the weekend at the event, which is enormous. It is functionally just sort of the British Motor Show, just happens to have a moving bit and some sort of historic elements to it. And I think a lot of the brands, like you said, like leaning into the thing that modern competitors don't have, which is the history, the heritage. Ford, obviously big modern day motor manufacturer. The best thing that Jim Farley, CEO of Ford Motor Company, was most pleased about was seeing the 3 original Le Mans 66 GT40s on the hill together again, and sort of seeing all of this Ford heritage celebrated, while there was also the new Mustang Dark Horse, the Mach-E Pikes Peak car, the new electric supervan. So while Ford's new stuff was there, the thing that the guy in charge of Ford was most excited about, and genuinely because he races it and he loves his classics, was seeing the 366 GT40s there, and seeing them go up the hill sort of grouped together in a little batch, sort of reminiscent. A friend of mine, Johnny, got a great shot that Goodwood used in their press, which is the perfect sort of angle and layout of all 3 cars in the iconic photograph of them crossing the line at the south. And it's that sort of thing where you go, no other car show does it quite like this. And yes, it's Goodwood extravagance, yes, it's Goodwood expense, but also what it's able to pull off in that sort of celebration of motoring history is just phenomenal. And the more you dig away, the more you pick at things, the more interesting quirks of history that you start uncovering. So things like the Christies, the early Indy cars, Formula One cars that sort of lost to time. McLaren rocked up with a car that only really sort of raced once or twice, and it was essentially a sort of like D or E chassis of their MP4 series, which ran a Lamborghini V12, when everything else they were running was usually sort of the Honda Tag Heuer V6s. They sort of also fielded a Lamborghini V12, and that sort of did a couple of special runs up and down the hill with Bruno Senna driving it. And it's those things where this is history you don't see unless you work in the heritage fleet for a Formula One team.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of goodwill as well, isn't it? There's a lot of people who will do things for Goodwood because it's Goodwood, sort of thing. I think I think just the general sort of view that the motoring world has of that particular events that take place there. I don't know. I think they get an awful lot of boost from it, sort of thing. So at the end of the day, the marketing team behind it is very astute and very good at putting out all of this. Obviously, you can watch all of it on TV as well. I'm not aware of when the reruns, the recaps are taking place, if they've already begun screening, sort of thing. But you can definitely see a lot of what was on the hill going up the hill, can't you? So
Oh yeah, you can watch back all 4 days still on YouTube. I know the
This,
YouTube
yeah.
channel already has a highlights package out for it as
Mm.
well. And then I know that for certainly members meeting and fest and revival, there's often on sort of like ITV or channel
Yeah.
or sort of like a higher number channel 4 or something. There's usually sort of like a televised package that goes out. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's one from Foss going out at some point too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those events that just genuinely people go, oh, it's just a modern car show. No, you can set that aside and go and find some really interesting history that's sort of out and about there. And because again, it's open paddocks, you can go and talk to the people that prepare them, that drive them, that enjoy these cars and maintain them.
Yeah.
And it's great that so many of them don't see themselves as owners. They see them as people who are sort of preserving these bits of history for the next
Custodians.
generation to enjoy. And that's, I think, also the really important part is that people go, oh, it's great. I own one of the original 66 Ford GT40s. No, I'm preserving this for someone else to enjoy down the line and sort of making sure that history remains. So it's, yeah, it was sort of a very enjoyable weekend from a historian point of view, as much as it was sort of nice to see a lot of modern flash cars going up and down the hill, which I couldn't care less about. In fact, they provided me with a great chance to go and sit down, edit some photographs, do some writing, and have some lunch, and then sort of wait for the old
Yes.
stuff to come out again.
Don't
Which
knock,
was,
don't knock the modern stuff. The modern stuff is the reason that the Ultimate can have its limelight as well, sort of thing. So
very
I think
true.
everything in moderation. There is something for everyone at that particular event. But yeah, as I say, it's current billing and just as I say, the general sort of clout that the Goodwood brand has means that it can do some of this left field stuff that's perhaps the more general sort of motoring world isn't so interested in, but that we can really geek out on. So
It'll be interesting to see where they take it when they go to America next year, because at the event
yes, I remember you telling me about this.
they
Yeah, do you want
used
to just talk about that?
yeah, they used one of their runs for all the Americana cars to essentially launch Goodwood Road Racing Club USA specs. This is going to be an offshoot of the regular GRRC, but basically in America, and it's going to host a number of events across the year, I think is the long-term plan, but they're kicking off with one major event at Willow Springs Raceway. So this is one of the historic sort of sports car club racing circuits in America. And it's I think ultimately what it's going to be is sort of an American version of Revival.
Yeah.
Classic cars thundering around a nice old race circuit, and it's going to have a good bit of Goodwood branding to it. The cynic in me says that this was all very well timed because Willow Springs is owned by the same holding group that owns Singer Engineering, which is the people that do the lovely reimagined Porsches,
Yes, the
which may
911s.
or may not have had the big center sculpture at this year's Goodwood Festival of Speed. So obviously they launched Goodwood Road Racing Club America from the house with all these sort of American flags and the US flags and fireworks, and Damon Hill playing sort of rock music stood atop the house and all the American cars lined up. And they go, we're going to Willow Springs. Also, here are some Singer 911s. And you just know someone somewhere is going, my PR plan has come together very nicely.
All I'm hearing is that there's going to be the potential for an Austin J40 pedal car race outside of Goodwood. So
I do not want to imagine how hot and sweaty it would be trying to pedal it. Willow Springs doesn't have a flat surface to it. You'd always be doing one of those little things uphill.
Yeah.
And it's in the California desert. It's going to be 38 degrees regardless.
Little Tarquin's going to love it.
Oh, he's me sweating into his tweed. But anyway, that's enough out of sort of Goodwood. We've got plenty of other bits and pieces covered in this week's news section as well, including the sort of the cuts that are facing restorers at the moment, and the sort of the implications this is having when it comes to sort of hiring on new and sort of new skilled people as well. But yeah, it's a busy news section, but we'll swerve away from it to an interesting thing that I found while I was just sort of idly scrolling around the internet, and I found myself on the Renault website just specking up a brand new Renault 4 just out of curiosity.
As you do.
As you do. It's a thing car people do when they get bored. They just go on to like the build your version of an car. I spent vast amounts of my childhood doing it.
The Billington edition.
Yeah, I was astounded to find that I knew that the Renault 4 comes with a wicker baguette holder, but what I didn't know was that one of its
Is this the equivalent of like the Skoda umbrella?
better. One of the additional options packages you can get for the brand new Renault 4 is a coffee machine.
Of course it is.
And it's sort of like a AeroPress style sort of, you bring your own hot water with you, but you then sort of like you have like a small mill that you can grind your coffee with, and then you put it into the AeroPress and press the hot water through it, so you get like a proper drawn espresso. And I am without sort of sugarcoating it, a bit of a coffee snob at points. I was like, this is the perfect option package that embraces like one of my personality traits. So it made me sort of wonder if you could turn like one element of your personality into an options pack for a car, what would the option pack be, and what car would you sort of attach it to? Because I was like, for me, a coffee pack on a Renault 4, like a practical little sort of chunky hatchback, is it's quite me.
I think I had a look at mine, and all I thought is that I really don't want all the things on new cars. So I've got like the Luddite or the Pighead edition. So strips it back to a standard handbrake, gets rid of the electronic parking brake, lane assist gone. All of those sort of things that just, all the things that bing and beep and bong at you. Yeah, I don't know what you would call that as a personality trait, but I know what I don't want in a car. And if I can spec it out, I absolutely will.
I think that's such a great package, just sort of like the one that takes away all the electronic nannies, is just sort of like
Yes.
make all the things that beep at me constantly go away package.
Yes, the TBR edition.
Yeah, I think that'd be quite sensible. I like that as a concept. I think that'd be quite fun. But I'm sort of thinking like you can, if you get into the weird world of sort of certainly car customizing, when you go down like the routes of your high-end Range Rovers and Rolls Royces and things, and you can sort of ask for anything. I was like, I love the fact that someone at Renault thought we could probably sell them a coffee machine with this. And I was like, great. I was like, the only other one I could think of would be like one of those little keganators, but I was like, that feels like you're trying to combine drinking and driving in too dangerous a
Yes,
concept.
yes, yeah. I mean, there's got to be a better way than some of the YouTube videos I've seen of people sort of using copious amounts of expanding foam and bits of polystyrene to make it all work, and breaking the doors off travel fridges that then plug into the cigarette lighter sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's plenty of non-alcoholic beers now, so it's still
This is true.
possible, maybe, but yeah.
It'd be very tricky explaining that to a police officer when they pull you over because they see you sort of in stationary traffic on the
No,
M4
it's not.
leaning
So,
over.
officer, join me at the back of the car. I'm just going to pull you a pint while we discuss this. So.
Yeah. Come round. I've got an array of alcohol-free beers with like proper like keg.
You look like you could do with a pale ale. So
yeah, yeah, just sort of like everything.
no, I
melted
I,
into a
I
glass
like
of
the idea of the coffee machine sort of thing. So I mean, what else? It's always a nightmare putting a roof rack on cars. I find whether it's the sort of the bag style one that I've got, or the more fixed ones. I've never seen anyone sort of put a roof box or anything on a car in less than an hour. There's got to be a way that you just sort of push a button and it just maybe sort of inflates or something like that. So
that feels sort of very much like a James Bond style sort of gadget, the inflating roof box. Well, you get the inflatable
James Bond
tents
if he had
these days.
kids.
Yeah. You get the inflatable sort of tents now, where instead of having poles, you just sort of inflate like the archways that sort of support it all. I'm sure there's probably a way of doing something like that you could put luggage into that would withstand 70 miles an hour on a motorway. I mean, there's probably means for that. I mean, I don't see why you don't have. If you've ever been to like a modern train station in the UK, they have like the two-tier bicycle racks where the top
Yes.
ones you sort of pull them out and then it sort of drops down, so you don't sort of slot your bike on it and then just sort of heave it up. I think something like that for a roof rack would be really useful. So you could sort of like slide it backwards and drop it down, shove everything in, and then just sort of like heave it back on top again would be
Yes.
quite useful. That would be a perfect solution. Anyway, back to this week's issue and the Lotus Esprit
I
S4.
say, yeah, talking of James Bond.
Yeah, talking of James Bond bits, a car that James Bond didn't drive, but Richard Gere did, which they essentially sort of picked because it made him look a bit Bondy in, I think it was Pretty Woman, wasn't it? I think
It
I
was
ended up,
Pretty Woman,
yeah,
yes.
I think I ended up cutting sort of a long sort of non sequitur about the fact that they were trying to get, I think it was Ferraris and Aston Martins as the cast cars for this.
Yep. And they
And
didn't
then-
want to be associated with A Lady of the Night, a film
Yeah.
about one anyway.
Yeah, so but Lotus were just sort of typically Lotus and just went, yeah, go on, sounds like a laugh. So yeah,
Sounds fine to me.
but it's interesting that the S4
Free
has become-
publicity, you say?
But the S4 has become sort of the forgotten one in the Esprit range because it's sort of certainly after the X180 when they changed the styling away from the very clean Giugiaro lines, everyone just sort of went, it's not really, I can't look like Roger Moore with it now, so there's no point in me buying one, certainly on the second-hand market. And it means that it's a really good way of getting into something that still drives like an Esprit. And I think they are absolutely fantastic cars. I had a blast with this one. And it's by the fact that it was, again, one of the hottest
On the
days of the
hottest
year.
day of what was the hottest of the day, but has been now overtaken. But yeah, definitely a warm one for you, wasn't it? It was one of those where you get to do this, but and there's always sort of a drawback, and that was very much you get to drive your dream car, but you're going to be roasted alive.
Yeah, the aircon in it was best described as period. And so
So non-existent.
yes.
A
Um,
whisper.
uh, yeah, and also the fact that for our shots, we try and keep all our sort of moving imagery for Classic Car Weekly very neutral, I think is the appropriate way of saying this. So we have to always windows up when it's stationary stuff with a hard top. So which meant doing a lot of the driving in this with the windows up. Thankfully, no one noticed that I'd cracked open the sunroof, which gave me a small amount of like blow through. But I was sat there the entire day just sort of wringing wet. And yeah, but
In a car with electric windows, it's possible where if you are doing so, there's various different kinds of photography that we do, but panning photography is where you basically send off your photographer into the middle of the field, and he sort of does photos where he spins on the spot and gets side-on angles as you're driving past. I've been sort of known to sort of put down the passenger window and then put down the driver's window based on depending which direction you're going, just so you can have some sort of airflow. Otherwise, yeah, it's I think it's a health and safety nightmare if you do it for more than about 20 minutes.
yeah, it was getting warm in that car. And again, it's a really smart dark blue. I can't remember the interior was at least I think beige on it, so it wasn't like getting the actual seat wasn't like stupidly hot, but it was just sort of one of those things, the greenhouse effect inside the car with the turbocharged four-cylinder behind you, sort of chucking out heat as well. You're sort of going, just getting very very warm in this, and you'd sort of get out and the shirt has got sort of like darker patches where you've just been sweating, or especially where it's been pressed against you by the seatbelt. So there's sort of like just a dark band across your shirt. And you're going, oh, this is uncomfortable. And this also does sound sort of like moaning about the fact that I've had to go and drive a Lotus Esprit S4.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's sort of like the least people are going to ever have sympathy for me. It's sort of like, oh, you've had such a terrible time, I'm sure. I think interestingly, that car is still available at Alan White Sports
I'm
Cars.
one step ahead of you here, mate. It is still on Alan White's website. £26,995, registered in 1994, 2.2 litre engine, finished in Pacific Blue, which looks absolutely stunning, by the way. So, various bits and pieces in terms of history, seems to be well spec'd. Definitely one that's worth a look, I would suggest. I like the colour combo of the blue and the sort of the beigey sort of sand interior as well. It's unusual for a Lotus, but no, it really suits it.
It's an absolutely brilliant thing to sort of drive and enjoy, and it has a really interesting tractability as well. I think I go into it in the 5 trials that we've sort of written, the fact that you can enjoy it as a GT car. You can sort of let it stretch itself out into a long cruise along a motorway, and it doesn't feel like you're underselling or sort of not using it properly. But as soon as it gets twisty, as soon as you get onto an open road where you can really enjoy it, it becomes a car that really comes alive very quickly underneath you and sort of flatters you quite nicely. And it's on fairly decent tires at the moment as well. I can't remember what I've said that this one was on. They respond well to good rubber. And you can just get the car to just sort of not necessarily move around on the road, but you can point it and place it where you need it to be to really enjoy a sort of twisting B road. And we were out in sort of the back edge of sort of Buckinghamshire doing this test, and sort of got quite used to the photography road. And there was a lovely little kink through it as it sort of drops down through a dip, and you've got a really clear sight line, so you can straight line it through the dip, and you just feel the car just sort of load up, grip, and just keep pulling, and you're like, that sort of specialness of a chassis that just sort of goes, this is a Lotus. It's not gotten big, it's not gotten fat, it's not the older boring Esprit. It still feels electric underneath you in that really exciting way that a Lotus should be. And yeah,
is there a downside? Is it the rearward visibility with the positioning of that spoiler?
not really, because you've got wing mirrors. And the wing mirrors are fairly decent on that. I can't remember what car Lotus borrowed them from, but they were sort of, again, a bit of a Bitzer car at the best of times in the Esprit. They were always just sort of like, oh, could we have those door handles, those wing mirrors, and that gearbox from Citroen. But it feels sort of it coalesces quite nicely. It's a car that you can sit in and drive quite easily. Parking it is quite tricky. It's a heavy clutch. It's a fairly heavy gearbox because it's quite a long way from where you're shifting.
Yeah.
But and the steering is assisted, but you've got quite broad tires on it, so you still have to put a bit of effort in through the shoulders.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's still a car that you could sort of use regularly. I wouldn't say that you'd have any great fun feeding it into a tight car park, but shows, going to a ring, weekends away, actually enjoying it in a spirited sense, it ticks pretty much all the boxes across the board. So it's a good car to 5 trial in that sense, and just a brilliant car to enjoy. So it's really, really quite fun, and a car that I enjoyed driving despite the challenging thermal conditions of that weekend. It seems to be sort of on a good run of just sort of picking the hottest day of the year to go and drive a classic car in some sense. So yeah, I'm not sure what heat we've got coming up or where I'm going to next in a car. I know this weekend I'm up at Festival of the Unexceptional and I think I'm taking the MG to that one, so I'm heading up to Grimsthorpe in that. So I'm going to wait and see how bakingly hot Saturday is probably going to be, or something absurd. So if I arrive looking windswept, it's because I drove all the way up the A1 with the roof down, just in a bid to try and keep myself cool.
Yeah, and rack up some more miles as well.
Oh, rack up
the old what do you call it? The ometer for hood down for this year. So
the openometer, yeah,
that's the one.
It just goes onto my big sort of 2026 wrapped note on my phone, which keeps track of park runs I've been to and the mileage I've done in the car with the roof down, the 2 important statistics I keep on top of across the year. Unsurprisingly, I've done more mileage with the roof down than I have at park runs, which really suggests I ought to get out running a bit more, but that's not the point. But anyway, we're recording this a little bit out of sync with the rest of the week. Obviously, you can still pick up the last of the current issue, the 15th of July issue of Classic Car Weekly. There's plenty more in it besides, including a head-to-head between the Mercedes... What generation Mercedes was it off the top of my head? This is a feature that you pulled together.
A feature that I am responsible for, that I should know well about.
E320.
Thank you. You've embarrassed me. You said my embarrassments there.
E320 versus the BMW 635i. Some sort of really nice sort of German coupes of the sort of 80s, really, isn't it? I think for these two.
Yeah, I think it's sort of how affordable do you want to go? Both offer great value for money, but I mean you can get the Merc for roughly about 5, whereas you're looking maybe double, maybe slightly more of that for the BMW. Is it worth the premium? It's for you to decide after reading the article, really.
Yeah, a really nice feature. And again, 2 very, very evocative cars. I will say visually, I'm swung more by the BMW. But again, reader, that is up to you. There's also a preview of the BRDC Classic in the upcoming issue as well. In the issue that's out even, which is, of course, this weekend. That's also something I'll be sort of fitting into my weekend. I think Friday and Sunday I'm at Silverstone. Saturday I'm disappearing to Grimsthorpe for photo. So a busy boy once more.
Festival of the Unexceptional.
Yes, yeah, so we'll be all over the place there. And of course, if you haven't picked up this week's issue or the current issue on sale, please do it for my Hour Classics as well, which is me borrowing a load of cars from my friends while the MG and the Jimny were both off the road earlier this year. So there's the full story behind that and the adventures we got up to. And my friend has now since fitted a tow bar to the back of the Armstrong Siddeley that features in this. And weekend gone took the Siddeley and a special Sebring Coupe midget up to a car show near Sheffield, actually, for a car show there. So he rocked up with a brilliant sort of combination of sort of tow car and show car. And
I mean, it gets plenty of attention even without when it's not towing. So God knows what it was like when it is.
Oh yeah, a lot of heads were turned. So worthwhile picking up just for my Hour Classics alone, if I might be so bold as to say such. And then coming up in the issue that will be going to print in 2 days' time, which we'll no doubt talk about when it comes out. We've got again a preview of the Festival of the Unexceptional. I'm trying to think what else we've got shoehorned into this one. What's the lead feature?
MG ZR at 25 takes on the Citroen Saxo VTS.
That's the one, yes. And that is some stunning photography that goes with this one as well, I have to say. I love the colours on this one, and I'm quite taken by the MG ZR. It is quite a fun looking car, I'll give it that.
Yes.
So a lot to look forward to in the upcoming issue of Classic Car Weekly as well. But like I said, it is press day. We've got plenty still to crack on with. So we will catch you later this week with another episode, hopefully. We'll try and
I don't see why not.
Yeah, my Thursday's looking fairly straightforward. Let's aim for that, shall we?
Just
Otherwise,
doing logistics on the hoof while in the middle of a podcast. That we wouldn't have it any other way.
it's the peek behind the curtain that people come to the show for. Otherwise, Chris, thank you very much for joining me on Monday lunchtime. And reader, listener, we will be out with a fresh issue of Classic Car Weekly on the 22nd, and hopefully a podcast fairly soon after. Consider it a double episode week, aren't you lucky? Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode.